Hi there, everyone. I am Rachel Peniston, Manager of Partnership Programs for the NFCC, and your host today for our Financial Facts Chat. If you're joining us on YouTube, thank you. It's great to have you with us today. And if you enjoy today's show, please do like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. That all helps demonstrate your support for nonprofit financial education, and it supports our continued Financial Facts Chat on the channel. I am here with Bruce McCleary, SVP of Communications for the NFCC. Bruce is back once again, ready to answer questions during the show. How's it going, Bruce?
It's going great, Rachel. Spring is here, and it's an exciting time. It's a great time to be outdoors, a great time to be getting things done, and a great time for my allergies to go nuts. So
yeah, I feel that. I've had the same issue.
Yeah, I was outside yesterday evening enjoying the good weather, knowing that it was going to kind of cloud up and get a little gloomy today.
Yeah.
And I realized after I was out that I didn't take my allergy medicine. So now today it's just runny nose and scratchy throat. So I apologize to our viewers if I have to clear my throat more often than I usually do. But that's what you get this time of year. But
yeah, I think everyone will be understanding, because I don't know people who pretty much aren't affected by allergies at this point, especially in the area where we live.
Yeah. It gets kind of crazy around this time of year, but other than that, how are things going with you? Actually, we should probably let our audience know that as we've been spending a lot of times outdoors, we happened to cross paths. What was it, Saturday?
Yes,
Sunday?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, well, I was out hiking, so it's rare because we've been working remotely for so long, but we do get an opportunity every once in a while to cross paths and safely social distance and all that good stuff.
Outdoors, both in our masks.
As I was crawling through the woods. But anyway, so everything going all right with you?
Yeah. I'm just looking out my window and looking at all the green leaves starting to appear on all of the trees, and just thinking about how pretty it's going to be when they all bloom, and all the flowers, and how miserable our allergies are going to be.
Exactly. It can all lead to that, isn't it? Yes. Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
But with spring also comes a lot of really big financial decisions for people. Mm-hmm. I think the whole spring cleaning concept is seasonal transitions are interesting, because I think a lot of times people make big decisions or save big projects for the transition from one season to another. Mm-hmm. I think the same thing is happening now with spring. And we can tell because we get a lot of these Ask an Expert questions that are about big financial decisions. What should I do? Should I do this or should I do that? Or which choice is better for me? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that going on. A lot of people doing some financial spring cleaning, as well as thinking about different financial goals and priorities. So I know we've got some questions that deal with some of that today.
Yes, we have a couple interesting ones. But before I get into that, I did want to let all our viewers know that we always welcome your personal finance questions. We look forward to answering them. Please contact us by a direct email. We're happy if you want to chat here in the comment box on YouTube live. We'll try to get to them during the course of the show. If you write a comment, we'll definitely try to answer that for you. We either respond by email, or maybe we'll do a whole article on our blog. So we definitely invite your questions and want to make sure you get an answer. So don't hesitate. So without further ado, let's jump into our questions that we've got collected. And like you said, Bruce, we kind of got this interesting theme of all these questions, which are maybe choosing between two different options and how both of those options might affect your personal finances. So our first question is, should I finance a new car when I still owe money on the one I have? Or should I pay off the remaining balance with savings before buying a new car?
Yeah, this is a great question, and we've had a couple of Ask an Expert questions that are right along this same topic. And in fact, I just did an interview for an article that's going to be published probably in the next month, about this topic of what to do if you still owe money on your vehicle and you know you need or you feel you need to buy a new car, and what that process should look like. And this is if you take the money that you owe on the car that you currently drive and you trade in that vehicle and you want to merge the financing, it's called a rollover. You're basically rolling the balance over into the new car loan, which sounds convenient because it's, I think because of the process, it seems less stressful in the moment. You don't have to worry about everything. The car dealer and the financing folks will help you package it all together, so you can just drive your car to the lot, hand in the keys to your old car, and drive away with the car that you're purchasing and not have to worry about it. And then the payments will kick in for the new vehicle, and everything is relatively seamless and less stressful, or at least less complicated. But you have to look a little bit beyond the surface and look deeper to find out what's involved, to see whether or not it's right for you, because there are a couple of complicating factors here that could make what seems like a relatively stress-free process make it actually be a bad thing for you. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that if you trade in a vehicle, you're probably, and this is not a dig at car dealers or anything like that, so please don't send hate mail, but you're probably not going to get the best return or the most for your car if you do that instead of trying to sell it yourself. If you do it the right way and you follow the recommendations of how to sell a vehicle, and there's plenty of advice out there from professionals, you may get you may likely get more than you would for your trade-in if you trade in with the car dealer. The other thing that undermines your return on a trade-in is how they package the financing of the car you're purchasing. So any benefit that you would have gotten from what seemed like a generous trade-in could be undercut or erased by the fees and financing charges that they pack into the new loan. So you have to be really careful there. So I think the best bet in that situation is probably, instead of trading in, is to try to sell the car on your own. But as far as paying off the balance of the loan that you still owe on the car that you're looking to get rid of, don't mess with your savings. That's like the last thing you want to do, is deplete your savings to pay off a car loan so that you can trade in that car and take on more new debt. That's terrible, because then now you have more debt and you have no savings. So make sure that when you sell the car on your own, that you sell it for an amount sufficient to pay off the loan that you currently owe. Then or even come out ahead, which is ideal. That's optimum. But at least you should be paying off the balance of the loan with the sale of the car. Then you go in to the car dealer with no debt that you're adding to the purchase of the vehicle, the new vehicle. Your savings is still intact, which is really important. And then you can focus on the financing terms and get the most affordable deal in the car you're purchasing. So that's the best approach to that, because the last thing you want to do is deplete your savings, especially now when emergency savings is vital. We've just gone through an economic crisis. People lost jobs. People relied on emergency savings to get by month to month or week to week. And the less savings you have, the less, the shorter your trip in your lifeboat is going to be. And then you have to look for, then you have to take even more desperate measures when the savings runs out. So do everything you can to preserve and protect your savings. Sell instead of trade in. Go to the dealer. And when you go to the dealer, the other thing too on the vehicle purchase is get your ducks in a row before you go to the dealer on financing, and talk to your credit union or your bank and see if they can give you some kind of a pre-approval before you go to the car lot. Then you don't have to mess with the financing folks at the car dealership, because who knows who they're going to be farming out your loan application to. So it's good to know where you stand going into that beforehand. But that's a good question. A lot of people are wondering, and people are also wondering if it's a good idea just to simply refinance their car loan right now. If you're having trouble affording the car payments and you're just scraping by, you're trying to restructure, it could be an opportunity to refinance the loan. But one of the things you want to be careful about if you're refinancing the loan, you don't want to change the interest rate unfavorable. You don't want to send the interest rate up. So if your credit score has dropped between the time you originally financed the vehicle and now, it's likely that you're going to be paying more for the refinancing. Your interest rate might go up. You might have additional fees, or you may not even get approved at all, which is one outcome. And the other thing is, if you just purchase the vehicle and you're within the first year of ownership, refinancing is probably not a good idea. Very few exceptions to that, but you want to be careful about the timing there as well. But anyway, that's a good topic to start with. It's a tough choice for a lot of people.
Thanks, Bruce. We do have another question of choosing between two different options here. So staying on our theme today. Our second question here is now a good time to consolidate and refinance my student loans, or should I leave things alone?
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a very unique time for student borrowers because we're still in the middle of the administrative forbearance on federal student loan payments. So what that means is that if you have a federally backed student loan, that you're not at this point, and those watching live, it's right now, it's the last day of March 2021. At this point, there are no payments required on your federally backed student loans, and your loans are not accruing interest, which is great. And that's almost that's the best deal imaginable that you could get in terms of getting a break, giving you a little bit of financial breathing room. So you don't want to really tinker with that scenario, because if you take your federally backed student loans and you refinance them with a private lender, then all of the benefits that you're receiving from this administrative forbearance, they vanish. Now you have to make monthly payments. Now your loans are going to be accruing interest. And if you do that now, that's what's going to happen. If you do that and you roll it over into private student loan debt. So, my advice for people who are benefiting currently from the administrative forbearance on federal student loans, don't mess with a good thing, and use this as an opportunity instead of changing your consolidating or refinancing your loans right now. If you know affordability is going to be an issue long term, use this time to research your options. There may be affordable repayment options that are available through the Department of Education that might be a better bet for you than refinancing or consolidating. There could be other options that may be available that do involve consolidating or refinancing that you might want to avail yourself of after the administrative forbearance ends. So this is a good time to do your homework right now. Not necessarily taking any action in terms of changing the structure or the nature of your federally guaranteed student loans. But I will say this: if your loans are not federally guaranteed and you're not benefiting from the administrative forbearance, and you're thinking about things to do with your private student loan debt, rates are low and they may get lower in the near term. So it could be an opportunity for you to look at your private student loan debt and think about ways to manage that more effectively, whether it's refinancing or consolidating the private loans that you have. Just be very careful and understand which loans are private and which ones are federally backed, and make sure the ones that you do refinance at this time are ones where you're not giving up the benefits that you're currently taking advantage of, whether that's federal loans or otherwise. So just be very mindful of how you're benefiting from certain provisions that are available through the federal student loans, and understand what you're giving up if you do decide to refinance or consolidate, and make sure that you're doing whatever is best for your circumstances right now. But it's that's a good question, and we've gotten that a lot recently. A number of people have asked about that, which I think of the timing of those questions is interesting because of the fact that we are in a period where you don't have to make payments on your federal student loans right now, so people are getting a bit of a break.
Yeah, that's definitely timely. Thank you, Bruce. I think we do have time for our final question here, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Plenty of time.
All right. So our third and final question is, what's the one thing people should keep in mind right now when thinking about their financial plan for the rest of the year?
Yeah, this is a tricky year right now. And we've talked about the challenges of last year. Everybody had to make a significant pivot in the beginning of the year, in March and April and May, as the nation shut down and the world shut down, and people were having to switch to emergency budgets and lives were disrupted. But think about the disruption of life, because we've gone through, we've just passed the 1-year anniversary of the outbreak of the pandemic in the United States. And what had happened, just think about a year ago today, it was like we were panicked. We didn't know what the next day would bring. Every states were shutting down. We were asked not to come back to the office, work remotely. Nobody knew. In the intervening time, our habits have changed significantly, which has had a financial impact on all of us, one way or another. And if you are I can imagine this applies to everybody, certain categories of spending probably went away entirely in your budget. So for this year, especially at this stage, as we look ahead to May and June and July, with more people getting vaccinated, with states opening up, it's probably a good idea to look at your budget and think about how some of these categories are going to come back into play. Because areas where you're not spending now, you may be spending again soon. And you don't want to get too comfortable with the budget, the spending plan that you have, when these other categories start kicking back in, because then you could run the risk of derailing your budget. And a good example of that actually is the topic we just talked about. If you're repaying federal student loans and you're taking advantage of the opportunity to skip payments, well, that train ride ends at the end of September. So at the end of September, when you go into October, you're going to have to start making payments again on your student loans, unless that's extended. So it's a good time now to start thinking about how your budget is going to react, and how you're going to be able to make that happen, and the steps you need to take if you can't. Others, and we talked about this on the weekend, others are looking forward to getting back to travel. And if traveling was part of your budget and it hasn't been, you may have tucked away a good deal of money during COVID, and you may be sitting on some savings, and you might want to use some of that for your travel. But if travel expenses kick back in, that's discretionary. Of course, it's up to you. You don't have to travel, but you're going to have to make sure your budget can handle that. And then if you work for a company that is going to require you to start showing up at the workplace after working remotely for so long, commuting expenses are going to be in play again, and all the costs involved in that. So now is a good time to sit down with your spending plan this year and think about how you're going to phase in some of those costs, the commuting costs, the travel costs, vacations, if that's something you're looking forward to and you want to do again, all of those things, and just be ready when those things start coming back. because it's definitely, you don't want to be surprised by anything, and you definitely don't want to start spending without a plan in any of these areas. So we've
Right.
just gotten kind of used to not spending, and
Yes.
so it's a good idea to know what you're going to have to what you're going to have to start spending again, and what you can do just in a discretionary way. And if you have benefited from not spending in some of these categories, it's also a good idea to start thinking about how to manage the surplus that you have. And it's kind of, I mean, I'm not being insensitive here to those who have struggled and certainly don't have a surplus, but I also want to be aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who have maintained their jobs and have continued on, but have benefited in a way that has allowed them to pay down their debt and save a lot of money. So they got a lot of savings. So think about ways you can make the most of the savings that you have. And if you've just been sticking it in a savings account, it's really not doing much for you. So you might want to think about other higher yield savings vehicles that you can move that money to, so it's working harder for you and helps you get ahead. You can think about your retirement, you can think about your short-term savings, whatever priorities you want, but it can help you boost your savings quite a bit. And if you owe student loans, you might want to take advantage of making progress paying down your student loans while there's no interest being charged on your federal student loan debt. You don't have to make payments. You can really make progress when every dollar goes to principal. So it's also something to think about. So you can think strategically about how to use the savings you have if you do have a surplus right now. But this can all be a part of your spring cleaning.
I like that idea. So we should all be inspired to take another look at our budget, think about the future, the next few months, what our plans are and what our expenses might be and what's the outlook. I'm definitely going to take some time and do that.
Yeah, so it's no time like the present. That's what they say anyway, right?
Yes.
But speaking of time and timing, I know we had announced our next challenge last week, and we said it was going to take a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the challenge where we were each going to take part in a budget counseling session with an NFCC member agency.
Yes.
Just wanted to note, and we discussed this earlier, it is a little bit challenging with our own schedules, not having anything to do with the availability of counseling, but just with our own schedules right now and the workflow and the things that we have in front of us. And also the fact that I might be away from the office a little bit too, that we may have to extend the challenge into another week, give us an extra week to do that, which I think will be ample time. And then we can talk about the experience and have some highlights to share and talk about the ways that each of us benefited from the interaction with a nonprofit credit counselor. So just wanted to put that out there. We are still on task with that challenge. It's just we're going to need a little extra week based on crowded schedules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still on the agenda, and we are looking forward to it, but just a little bit of a busy time right now.
Yes, it is very busy, but yeah, well, that's spring, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Rachel. And again, anybody who has questions, if we didn't get a chance to answer something that was on your mind during this live broadcast, you can reach us with your questions by going to nfcc.org, and you can look for the Ask an Expert feature. You can submit your question. All questions get answered, whether they're answered here or whether we answer them directly by email. We make sure we get the advice and information back to you. Of course, if you like what you're seeing here, subscribe, click on the thumbs up, like it, and share it. If there's anybody that you know that might benefit from some of this advice, we're always happy to help.
Yes. And thank you, Bruce, for your great answers to our questions today. I think that really helped shed some light on some of these maybe complex choices that people have in front of them right now. We look forward to our next Financial Facts Chat, our session with an FCC member agency, and we will talk to you guys again soon.
Yep. Take care, everybody.